Hey everyone, welcome back to Pete Punch Beef Gaming. This week we're going to take a look at the week 4 recap of my Age of Sigmar Path to Glory, which was 1,500 points. So let's get started. All right, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the games themselves. So I got a chance to play a 1,500 point game, and once again, another fantastic opponent. I played against the Disciples of Tzeentch, so a Chaos Army, which was awesome. And I have to say, right out of the gate, not only was he a gracious player and super fun to play against, but he was also a tremendous painter. He painted up... I think his entire army was painted. He had pink horrors out there. He had a Lord of Change. He had Kairos. He had all sorts of great stuff that was on the board. And it's always such a pleasure to play against somebody who's got painted models. And so I want to just tip my cap to him and say, fantastic job overall, and way to be an awesome and gracious opponent. We played a mission called Apex Predators, and that's where you set up in two opposite corners of the board. So either one up there and one down there, or the other way around, and then the objectives run opposite. And they are not the normal objective rules when it came to model count. You had to have a hero contesting, or a hero next to that objective and no enemies, or you had to attack another enemy hero next to objective to take it. We got a chance to kind of play into turn 2 before we ended up calling the game, and that was only because I think two things happened, and both of them are very lucky or unlucky depending on how you look at it. He got the first turn, or got to start the game with the first turn. That was his choice, and I could not believe the sheer volume of spells that he was able to cast. I mean, I think 6 or 7 spells, something like that, right out of the gate. He had a little bit of a tough go in that I think probably about a third of the spells didn't actually go off, just some bum rolls. And in one case, he cast a pretty significant offensive spell against my my Dragonriders, my Stormdrake Drakes, and they had that 4-up to ignore magic, and so they were able to ignore that spell, which really helped him. But he did end the round on a strong note with casting one final spell, and I don't remember the name of it specifically, but it does D6 mortal wounds, and he dropped I think 5 mortal wounds on one of my drakes, something like that. It was pretty out of control. The bottom of turn 1, I was able to move my Knight-Arcanum over and take one objective that was closest to me. I moved the rest of my army up the center of the board. My drakes were able to charge at the on the hero phase, and he helped me correct a rule I was doing mistaken in that space. So again, hats off to him for making sure I was playing the game correctly. I always appreciate it when I misinterpret it and somebody's super gracious and lets me know where I make a mistake. So, and then I brought in my Annihilators. Both, I had the ones with the shields, and I also had the ones with the Meteoric Grandhammers. What was really impressive was I brought down the Meteoric Grandhammers within 7 inches of his casters, all his general and the other Lord of Change and then Kairos. But he's able to manipulate a die using, I think it's Kairos's ability, depending on the type of roll that's out there, where there's damages, charges, hits, wounds, saves, whatever. And he, I had enough on my charge to trundle in there. I think I got an 8, and he turned turned my 6. I rolled like a 6 and a 2, and he turned the 6 into a 1. So they just kind of came to a screeching halt and weren't able to get in there. Overall, the other thing I went up against was his pink horrors, and those things were just incredible. Not only were they beautifully painted, but you kill one and then it turns into 2 blue horrors, and then it turns into the brimstone horror, or whatever they're called, and they just bogged down some Vindictors, and then my other Annihilators just brought him to a screeching halt, which is exactly what they're supposed to do. It was kind of fun to watch it, to be honest with you. Pop one and more keeps shooting up. It was incredible. Very cool when you get down to it. We rolled off, and I happened to get I happened to win the roll off, so I elected to go first in the top of 2. And I had my shooting phases were pretty good, both rounds, especially with the drakes. I think the first round I was able to do 4-ish wounds, somewhere in that ballpark with the Drake's mortal wounds on Kairos, and then in the second round, I think I did another 3 or 4 wounds, something in that space. And then the Meteoric Grandhammers got like right into the mix. They made their charge, and I got really, really lucky on my attack rolls against his Lord of Change. The Dragon Riders picked up Kairos. But against the Lord of Change, I think out of all the attacks, I think I hit with 8 of them, something along those lines. And after all the hits, wounds, and saves, I think 8 went through in total. And at 3 damage a pop, I did 24 wounds and just picked up the Lord of Change. And it was kind of at that point we called the game there. Again, I think that was a pretty high spike when you get down to it. I don't think, generally speaking, that would be the way it kind of performs. But I'll tell you, those Meteoric Grandhammers, holy smokes, those are an offensive weapon. Probably in both terms of the word. Certainly pretty powerful and probably pretty onerous to somebody playing against them. So it was a fun game. I cannot wait to play him again and maybe see him at 2,000 points. That actually is, speaking of which, we're going up to 2,000 points this next week. So the league is coming close towards the end. We've got 2 weeks at 2,000 points. And with that, let's talk a little bit about not only the hobby, but also what I did following the mission. So following the mission, I got a total of 19 glory points. I didn't have any wounds that I suffered. I was pretty fortunate in that regard. I did have my Meteoric Grandhammers were the favored warriors in this case, and both my Stormguard Drakes and my Annihilators with the shields went up in levels. The Stormguard Drakes now can do +1 to wound once per game, and then the Annihilators with the shield have -1 to their wound rolls, so that's pretty good. And then I did complete Defend Your Realm, which got me another 10 glory points, and I did get the Wellspring for my 3rd and final territory. So of the 19, I spent 10 on the territory. I got another barracks to increase my total barracks to 2, and then the quest got me 10. I think I mentioned that, and then I'm either going to put in Vandus Hammerhand as a character or Yndrasta. So I'm kind of torn. Yndrasta seems really good as far as managing all of the monsters that are out there, especially given kind of we're in the phase of the monsters with all the scenarios. But Vandus seems very thematic, and I'm running 3 5-man units of Vindicators, so I thought, gosh, maybe that would be a good thing to put in there. I'm sure there's an optimal way of doing it, and I'm probably not doing it optimal, but I think what I probably will end up doing is putting Vandus in and not Yndrasta, and I think Vandus will end up costing me somewhere in the neighborhood of 5 glory points. So I've got to make sure I make that decision before Wednesday, but I am excited to see him hit the table. Now, in terms of what I got done with painting, I had a great week of painting. I got my Lord-Imperatant finished, and you will be seeing pictures of the models popping up here momentarily. Additionally, I got also the Gryph-hound done with him, and then I also got 3 of my Grandhammers done. I thought about doing the Praetorian Guards, but I ended up audibling out of that decision because I wanted to feel the Grandhammers in the battle, and they did such a nice job during the game. I thought, gosh, I have to get them painted. The Praetorians are they have been really reliable for me and certainly help with pulling the wounds off of my Lord-Imperator. But gosh, I almost feel like, well, the Annihilators with the Grandhammers, the Meteoric Grandhammers, are certainly way more expensive. But they might even, I don't know if the Annihilators with the shields are better than the Praetorians or not. They're closer in points-wise, but I'm not sure. I've got to fiddle with that a little bit and think about where I want to go with it. But that was kind of what I got done for painting. So it's a total of 5 models this week, and I'm really happy with that outcome. I also want to take a moment and just show you some of the pictures of my opponent's army. I did mention right out of the gate that he painted some beautiful models, some really nice custom bases, and I just wanted to take a moment and showcase what he had done. I think that they're brilliant, and anytime you see somebody pouring their heart and soul into painting up figures and fighting the gray, I think it's worth calling out. So hats off again to what you did in that space. It was really, really nicely done. So in terms of what I'm going to paint this week, I think it's time to get back to some of the fundamentals, and I think I'm going to get to another unit of Vindictors. They are kind of the core and the staple, and it feels wrong not to have them painted up, especially if I end up putting Vandus in the army. I think it's important to have him there, have some painted up core battle line troops. I think that would be a good thing. So that's going to be my my goal for this coming week. And then maybe I'll paint up my other character, whether it's Yandrasta or Vandus. I'm seeing now that we're at 1,500 points, our league has modified the rules basically and said that, hey, you've got to, we have to hit 1,500 points before you have to have a named character. I don't have any in my list yet. Now's the time to do it, especially at 2,000 points. I'm feeling a little left out. I'm joking, but I think it's appropriate now, and so maybe I'll paint up my last name character, and then I'll have all my my leadership done for this army. But progress is being made. I think I've got about 1,000 points painted up, and push comes to shove, maybe I'll be closer to 1,500 points of painted models by the time I do another video. Anyway, that is all I have to share for this week. I think I might end up doing a video here before too long on why I picked some of the units I picked and what I've learned about them. I am a complete noob to Sigmar, and playing these games, I've kind of figured out some of my preferences so far, and I think as kind of a every person gamer, I'd like to share my thoughts and get some counterpoints and some opinions on what other folks think. But anyway, that's all I've got for this week. I really appreciate you tuning in. Feel free to subscribe or like or hit the bell if you're interested in getting more material delivered, and I would love to get some continued support. So thanks so much for tuning in, and have a great week of gaming, and keep fighting that gray. All right, take care.